First, reading the question properly and understanding what they are asking. All of you wrote very beautiful answers. Essay 450, top to bottom you have written. Comparing it with essay 260, giving reference to essay 580, all of those things beautifully you have written. But they have not asked all those things in the question. That's the problem. I'm not saying whatever you wrote is wrong. I'm saying whatever you wrote is not asked. So first let's understand what is actually asked in the question. Up and High Private Limited has started its export business during the year 23-24. The company was catering to domestic market only in the past years. CAH, a statutory auditor of the company, is of the view that the company has understated its revenue by 50 lakhs in the year 23-24 by not complying with AS 9 relating to revenue recognition. There is some misstatement which has happened. They are asking you to discuss the responsibility of the statutory auditor to communicate with the management in the above situation in accordance with SA 450. They are saying, as a statutory auditor, we are supposed to communicate that there is a misstatement which has happened in the financial statements. What is your responsibility as the auditor? Next, they are asking, which no one has written, explain the usefulness of such communication. Because you are communicating about the misstatement, what is the usefulness they are asking? If the management refuses to correct the misstatement as communicated by statutory auditor, how should he proceed? You are going and communicating to him that there is a misstatement and he is not correcting the misstatement. What should the statutory auditor do? Clear question? Yes? Now let's look at the answers. Facts. Up and Private Limited has started its business during 23-24. Auditor of the company is of the view that the company has understated its revenue, which is not complying with requirements of AS9. Perfect. Provision. As per SA 450, evaluation of misstatement identified during the audit, the auditor requests the management to examine the account balance, class of transaction, disclosure to understand the cause of the misstatement. Management examines and corrected the misstatement that was deducted. Auditor shall perform alternate audit procedure. See, all of these things is given where? In our summary notes, if you see, we would have split it into two. Auditor is going and telling the management only two things. What are the two things? The size and nature of the uncorrected misstatement and the effect of the prior period uncorrected misstatements. These two things first has to go and communicate to the management. Yes. Now, after they are going and communicating, if they are correcting, then you will do alternate audit procedures and all of those things. All of that has been written. Auditor shall perform alternate audit procedures to check whether misstatement remains, communication with those charged with audits, SA 260 reference. All of those things is if he has corrected the misstatement. What is the question asking? The first question is clearly saying responsibility of statutory auditor to communicate with the management in the above situation. What should you communicate? They are asking only that question. They are not asking after you have communicated, they have corrected, then what should you do? Then only you have to write about alternate audit procedures and all of those things. Analysis. As in the given case, requirements are not complied with AS9 relating to revenue recognition. These are facts. So, the auditor has to inform the management and the management has to correct the uncorrected misstatement. Yes, correct only. The fact itself is given here as analysis. Conclusion. The auditor will request the management to correct the material misstatement. Second part, what are they saying? If they are not correcting, what should we do? If the management refuses to correct the misstatement, the auditor obtain reason for refusal of the this is correct. The auditor will obtain a reason for the refusal for the uncorrected misstatement. That is the answer. The answer itself is, the conclusion itself is supposed to be, the auditor is going and telling the misstatement. They are not correcting. What should the auditor do? Ask for reasons. Obtain the reasons from the management. That only is the conclusion itself. Analysis. If the Up and Private Limited refuses to correct the misstatement, then CAH statutory auditor can obtain reason and accordingly he can modify the report as per SA 705. Idella he has not asked. SA 450 stops with obtaining the reasons, whether sufficient or appropriate audit evidence is there, whether misstatement is there, whether it is pervasive, all of those things are later. Essay 705 is later stage. In essay 450, what are they saying? You have to go and communicate 2 points. If they are not correcting, simple, evaluate whether the financial statements are free from material misstatement and obtain the reasons for the same. That should be the conclusion and not essay 705 reference. The second one, Up and High Private Limited started export operations, leave the facts. Provisions, according to essay 450, the objectives of the auditor is to evaluate the effect of the identified misstatement on the audit and the effects of uncorrected misstatement on the financial statements, if any good. The auditor should request those governance to examine ABCD to understand the cause of misstatement in a timely manner, upon which the management corrects the detected misstatement. The auditor then performs alternate audit procedures, same thing. Again we are going to where? If they have corrected, we have to do alternate audit procedures and evaluate. Question, is it asking about that? Question is clear. If they have not corrected, what should the auditor do? Since the company has not complied, audit documentation must be made for the identified material. Audit documentation, written representation, all of those things are later. But before that, reasons has to be obtained. See here in the end, here also, 705 modifications, all this at a later stage. This is correct. 705 later stage. But question is specifically asking if management refuses to correct the misstatement, how should he proceed? Now see this answer. Facts of the case, the auditor of the company has understood his revenue. It is not compliant with AS9. Provisions applicability. As per SA 450, a misstatement may arise from various factors. What are the various factors? Processing inaccurate data, inaccurately processing data, omission of transactions, wrongly capitalization of revenue. Auditor should identify that the misstatements are first material, correct. Auditor shall communicate with those charged with governance regarding material mistake, or this whole paragraph, alternate audit procedures, is unnecessary. This is the good paragraph. If auditor found that the management refuses to correct a misstatement, question, the management must give the reasons for not making the corrections. Not a single person used this word reasons. That is the conclusion. Reasons for not making the correction and evaluate that the financial statements are free from material misstatements. That summary must later be presented in the written representation and all of those things. Now what is the advantage they are asking here? Explain the usefulness of such communication. Listen here. Because the correction by management and all the misstatement including communicated by the auditor, prior period, everything I am able to communicate, it enables the management to maintain accurate accounting books and records and reduces the risk of material misstatement of future financial statements because of the cumulative effect of immaterial uncorrected misstatement related to prior periods. When can you come to this conclusion? If you are able to write what are the two things which are to be communicated, that is, the first one is size and nature of the uncorrected misstatement and the effect of the ABCD on the financial statements and the effect of the prior period uncorrected misstatements on the ABCD and financial statements. If you are able to write those two of those points, then automatically you can connect that with the advantage saying if I am going to talk about the prior period misstatements and all, it will help the management for all the what? Misstatement of future financial statements, because I am also talking about the prior period uncorrected misstatements. Clear? Now here they are only talking about the first one is non-compliance. AS9, this is the facts of the case. The auditor will communicate on a timely basis and the auditor will request the management to correct the misstatements. If they have corrected law, not written. Alternate audit procedures, all of those things are not written. Second, the timely communication of the misstatement must be there. This is the advantage of the communication. And the last, if they are not correcting, management is not correcting, Auditor shall obtain an understanding of the management's reasons for not making the corrections and shall take that understanding into account while evaluating whether the financial statements as a whole are free from material mistake. That is all is the answer. What they have asked is obtaining the management's reasons. That's all. If you remember in class also I told you, if they have not given, if they have not corrected it, then the auditor will go and ask, Amma Taye, please give me the reasons. Do you remember that? Yes? So that is the conclusion for this question and not essay 705. Clear? Because question is very particular. Essay 450 padi, what should he do? If they have not corrected the misstatement, essay 450 padi, how should the auditor proceed further? Clear guys? Yes? Now you have little bit more understanding as to how precise the answer should be. They do not want to know what and all you know with regard to essay 450. They only want to know what is the answer if the management is not correct. Clear? Yes?